Matt Whitaker, former U.S. Acting Attorney General.
This is such a great conversation about America, our future, what's going to save our republic.
We have a great football player. Matt Whitaker is here. Matt.
They tried to bury me. They didn't realize I was a seed.
It's a touchdown, Whitaker.
Former Acting U.S. Attorney General.
Under President Trump.
I'm going to be an unwavering supporter of law enforcement.
Welcome to Liberty and Justice with your host, Matt Whitaker.
All right, welcome back. I'm Matt Whitaker. I am joined by special guest, Ian Pryor. Ian, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Ian and I work together at the Department of Justice in the Trump administration. You've gone on to do some very interesting things. I think a lot of people that are watching this are going to recognize you from all the TV you've done, talking about the zaniness in Loudoun County. You got a book coming out March 21st. We're going to talk about this, Parents of the World Unite, how to save our schools from the left's radical agenda. How do we save our schools? Because it seems like it's a little crazy.
Well, the thing that I learned throughout the past couple of years is you really have to be strategic.
Yeah.
It's not enough just to go to a school board meeting and rant about whatever's going on. It's not enough to, send emails to your school board. You really have to launch a full-scale operation to, expose what's going on, right? And so each chapter in that book is I structured as a rule, right? Like a strategic rule. But one of the things that I think is the most important is the left, especially at the local level, will always overreach. And you just got to wait for them to overreach and then you pounce. They will make mistakes because these are amateurs, right? I mean, they go into school boards and this is their entry-level political position. They have no idea what they're doing. They're trying to rise up the political ladder and this is where they start.
And they're being really led around by bureaucrats.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's something that's important too. Talk about the educational industrial complex. It's the school administrations that actually run the show. So you go and you elect a school board and think, well, they're going to hold them accountable. They're going to conduct oversight, but they don't. That's not the way it works. It's these woke bureaucrats in the administration that completely run these school boards. So you need people that'll step up for office at this local level that can say, no, we're going to engage in actual oversight against you.
And how did this manifest in Loudoun County? Because that's what's got to get. I mean, when we were working together at DOJ, this wasn't even like a thing that you were that we talked about or we interacted on, and then all of a sudden it just sort of exploded, and you were one of the main pro-parent advocates in the movement in Loudoun County. Talk a little bit about this.
Yeah, well, Loudoun County is an interesting case where you really had the local NAACP pushing this equity agenda. And the administration was more than happy to go along. And they started hiring consultants for $500,000 to come in and say, find the racism. It's like, well, if I bring my car to the shop, they're not going to say everything's fine, right? Just take you don't have to pay anything. They're like, no, you got to do this, and this, and you got to pay us for it. And so that's really where it started. And I did a little investigative work, sent some FOIAs, found out, oh, they're spending a lot of money on this. Then you had the school closures happening at the same time. So you get to March of 2021, and you had these activists, right? We call them Chardonnay Antifa, and they're a bunch of white moms out there.
I remember you coined that phrase. I love it, Chardonnay Antifa.
And they created essentially an enemies list in this private Facebook group of 60 to 70 parents that would go speak at school board meetings. And I had written an article in the Federalist. I had spoke at one school board meeting, and I found out I was on that list. And I said, all right, you want to play? Let's play. And that's really where it started. I mean, you had elected officials in that group at the same time. It's like, well, you violated Freedom of Information Act. You violated the First Amendment. You violated your own code of conduct. It's on.
Yeah. And so, obviously, it exploded from there. And in your case, in a good way, because, not only were you able to help fix some of the challenges in Loudoun County, I think ultimately you were able to run off the superintendent of schools and others, replaced members of the education board. But it also was a movement that led to the election of Glenn Youngkin, certainly was one of those reasons. And also, I think has led to a real kind of a brush fire revolution across the country.
Yeah.
Of parents, and so you're consulting across the country with other people that have faced these issues and pushing back. Tell me about the national movement.
Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere you go. all I have to say is Loudoun County, and they're like, oh, how did you guys do that, right? Tell us what you did. I mean, it's the proximity to Washington. It was in the middle of really the only watched election in 2021. So the nation was watching Loudoun County, and they're still watching Loudoun County, right? Because everything we did ultimately led to, the election of Glenn Youngkin, the election of Jason Miyares. And Miyares gets elected. Youngkin signs an executive order, authorizes Miyares to investigate. They investigate, convene a special grand jury, and then they indicted the superintendent for lying. They indicted the spokesperson of Loudoun County Public Schools for perjury. Think about that. Your spokesperson for your school district is indicted for perjury.
Yeah.
I mean, that says all you need to know about the state of our schools in America.
Yeah, and this is what sunshine does. It's the best disinfectant, right? I mean, you and others exposed what was happening. There was clearly bad things were happening, even criminal acts, and so you were able to do that. This book comes out in a couple of weeks. I'm sure it's available for pre-order on Amazon. I'll make sure I link it in the show notes so that you go get a copy. Parents of the World Unite: How to Save Our Schools from the Left's Radical Agenda. Tell me, first of all, what you're up to now. What are you working on? I know we're working on a project together.
Yeah. So I'm at America First Legal, and we're doing a lot of the things nationally that we started in Loudoun County. We're filing lawsuits on behalf of parents, trying to enforce parental rights under the 14th Amendment. We just filed a FOIA lawsuit against the FDA. Because they didn't provide the information about puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and the things that they're experimenting with children in this, gender ideology war that we're in. So we're really trying to utilize the legal system to hold these schools and hold these government organizations accountable for what they're doing to America's children.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how can people learn everything you're doing both on this front? Obviously, we'll link it all in the show notes, but tell me about social media, website, and then obviously, I think it's aflegal.org.
Yeah, aflegal.org.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, it's aflegal.org.
I should know I'm on the board.
Twitter, just at Ian D. Pryor. And then the book, I would say this: buy 2 copies, right? One for yourself, and then one to send for the most woke person you know, and send it over to them on April Fool's Day, because they're going to hate this book.
Yeah. Well, you're a warrior, and I think because of the platform that I was given when Donald Trump tapped me on the shoulder and rose me very quickly to national prominence, I haven't been able to work as much in the local areas and the local issues, which are very important. The local police departments, the local sheriff's departments, and obviously the local schools. And so I think it's amazing what you're doing, what you've done already, and how you've changed the course of so many children's lives. I mean, you and I could probably talk about so many different issues, but we'll leave it at that. If you want to learn more, Ian Pryor's new book is Parents of the World Unite: How to Save Our Schools from the Left's Radical Agenda. You are a true patriot and a friend. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me.
All right.